want to partner with this conference as an organization is because we want to believe in the vision that the Bishop carries for the Blessing City, and as an organization, we're also trying to bridge the, housing deficit that we, are experiencing as a country. And so we are happy to be part of the Professionals Conference today. Okay, so with me, I'd want to just make this presentation very interactive. Okay, so I think the media will assist us with just running through the slides as we talk through. Everybody is building, and we are building. We have either land that you're looking at developing, you don't have finances to start building, or you have a building that is stuck, and you don't have finances to maybe finish it up, and you've been building for years. And I think these are situations that we can all attest to. So who is Zambian Homeland? Maybe I could just kindly run you through who we are so you can understand, where we're coming from. So been in the Zambia financial services industry for over 7 years. We were set up in 2014. We're regulated by the Bank of Zambia, okay, as a designated financial business company, okay, and under the Financial Services Act. But we are not a microfinance institution. So in a nutshell, that is what we are. So we're a specialized mortgage business. So anything to do with a home, we can finance. But we believe shelter is a basic human right. And I think we all agree to that. We all need a roof, on our heads. And we believe that housing improves, the welfare and contributes to socio-economic development of a country. And suffice to say, Zambia has been facing a very critical shortage of housing, since independence. And the research was done by Center of Affordable Housing in Finance, in Africa. And they did a research and noted that by 2030, we'll have a housing deficit of over 3 million units. And I think that should speak, it speaks volumes, right? But then they also recommended that, an annual delivery of a rate of 150,000 units, to meet the demand in the next 10 years should be able to, meet this gap. But, we also appreciate that, as citizens, there's a role that we are playing when we build our own houses, using our own finances. But we all realize that the biggest elephant in the room is finance. And I think we all can attest to that. You want to build, but you don't have finances. You really don't know where to get finances to start building. Like I mentioned earlier, you have a piece of land, but you really don't know where to get finances to start building. Or you've been building at your own pace, very slow. We can all attest to that. This month you push in a 50,000, it takes you to wall level. The next month, your project is stuck for years, You pick it at roof level after 7 years. And I think it's very tedious, And so we came in as Zambian Homelands to see how we can help, Zambians own houses in a very faster way. You either move quickly, finish, put it on rent, rental income can help you service a loan, or you finish building and you move in your own house. So how does our model work? Our flagship product is a construction loan. Our construction loan comprises of, somebody who's just starting to build, or you've got a land, like I mentioned earlier, and you need finances to start building. So it's actually in stages. So our construction loan is disbursed in stages. You have your foundation stage, your wall level, your roof, and fixtures and fittings. But we are the only financial institution that is able to finance 100% of the cost of building. When you come to us at whatever stage, it may be at wall level, or it may be bare land where there's completely nothing, we can help finance from that level to completion. In 3 months, you should be done with your project. And I know you and me can agree that it takes long to build. Like I gave an example, it will take you 5 years or 2 years to finish your project. But Zambian Home Loans has good news. Within 3 months, your project will be done, from bare land. And if it's at wall level or roof level, I think we've all experience the building processes, you either are building or you know somebody who's building, at that stage, within a month, you should be done with, with building. And so our loans are also insured. I think this is something that we all, have fear on. When you get a mortgage, you are thinking, if I borrowed, and in case anything happens to me, will the financial institution come and grab that property from my family? Our loans are 100% insured under Credit Life. So it covers you. In case anything happens to you, the insurance pays off the loan outstanding, the balance outstanding at the time of death. And the house, the titles are then handed over to the next of kin, or the administrator. So you don't have to be scared of that. I think I'll touch that in the next session. But one other advantage, maybe I'd probably just want to run you through the values, of getting a construction loan from Zambian Home Loans. One of it, I did mention, it's 100% financing of the cost of building. But what we've also done, we have partnered with a number of building material suppliers where you buy your materials at a discounted price, okay? When you come to us, the value add will link you to all these suppliers where you can, source your materials at a discounted price. And also, when you come to us with your own design. We will not, alter anything. We will come in and provide financing, but you choose your own designs. You're fully in control of your project. You choose your own contractors. You can, call Mr. Banda to do your walls, Mr. Piri to do your roof. So we're only coming in as a financier to actually come in and provide financing for your project, okay? But what we also do, we have our internal quant surveyor that will help you through the process. So we provide technical support. We'll sit down with you. Is this type of house that you want to build? The BOQ that will be done will be aligned to the affordability. How much can you afford to borrow, right? Is this, BOQ aligned to the affordability? Is the affordability enough to finish, that type of house you want to build? So those are some of the value adds that you get. But why we came here, we have good news. We're running a promotion at the moment, and our rates are at 21.25. It's a fixed rate. What I mean when I say fixed, I think you probably may have heard such terms, in the financial sector. It actually means when we book you on and the repayment that you're paying for that particular loan, it's fixed for the duration of the facility. So it will not change. Whatever happens in the market will not affect your repayment. Even if there's an upward adjustment, on the treasury bills, you see an increase on the treasury bills, policy monetary rates have gone up. This won't affect your repayment. It will remain fixed until the loan expires. So this is some very good news we thought we could, share to the professionals that are sitting in the conference today. And also, one of the good, we want to always brag about this, but this is actually the fact. We would disburse your loan in 5 days. I think we are the most fastest financial institution, that is around, apart from our interest rate, being the lowest. We are quick, we're efficient, and we want to ensure that in the most quickest possible time, the money is dispersed, your project is done, you put it on rent, rental income can help you service the loan, or you move in and stop paying rent. So those are things that we actually do. Okay, so maybe we could also run to, I think the things I mentioned earlier, we'll offer the technical support. A quant surveyor will, we'll run you through how much you can afford to borrow from the BOQs once they are done, okay? So one would ask, who's eligible to get a facility from Zambian Home Loans, right? So one of the key things that we look for is, these are salary-backed loans, yes, and so we need one to be in formal employment, and so of course we'll run you through all those details. When you come to our table and we'll have that personal interaction with you, we can give you all those details. But what type of building is acceptable for Zambian Home Loans? Any type of building is acceptable. So it may be a standalone house. It has to be a residential property, of course. It may be building a double story or flats, You either want to just build one standalone house. We can finance from whatever level, Like I mentioned earlier, it may be at, all level, or you're just starting to build. We can finance. Now, the other question one would ask is, can I use title which is in somebody else's name? And I think we all have seen such, yeah? Maybe you want to use title that is in your husband's name, or you want to use title that is in mom's name or dad's name. You want to use title that is in uncle's name to get, financing. we do accept third-party mortgages. So the only thing that we need you to do for us is get consent from the name that is appearing on that title deed. So that is what we do. And we are the lowest on the market, like I mentioned. We are the lowest priced mortgage on the market. And so in a nutshell, we are happy that we can speak to you about what we offer, but we know that the biggest elephant in the room is finance. And we all agree to that. You want to start building, but you don't know where to get finances from. You are building at your own pace, and it takes long to finish building, eh? And we've all been there. You are at fixtures and fittings, and that's a very frustrating stage because the house is almost done, but then you can't move in because maybe you need to do your plumbing works, your electricals, you're stuck at that level. And we are here to provide a solution for you. And within a month, you should be done if it's at that level. Or you are stuck at, you have a bare piece of land, and you've been failing to start building because you don't have finances. And that's why we come in. We will give you 100% financing of a cost of building from bare land to completion. So we're happy that, we can provide such a service. And we look forward to interacting with you. We have a table right in the foyer. So if you need more questions around what we do, I know I was running you through quickly because of time. But I think when you have time, please pass through the table. We can run you through in detail of all these different products, because I think this, which I've mentioned, is only a construction loan, but we also have products like equity release. You've got a house already, you can get equity from it. I'll tackle that in the second session. You want to buy a house. What are the terms around it? You've got a house already and you want to improve it. What are the terms around it? So those are things that we can run you through in detail when we sit in the foyer. So briefly, I think we're happy that we could explain to you that we are around. You may be stuck wondering what to do with your project. But not like the speaker yesterday mentioned, ignorance is expensive. You don't know that there's actually finance just next, to your door, And so that's what we're here to do. So we would talk when you have, when the sessions are done. Please feel free to see us at the table, and we will give you all the details. Thank you so much. I think I'll hand over to the chair.
Another round of applause, please. Indeed, it's a beautiful, beautiful product, and I think we should all make our way to the table in the foyer. I was actually getting so excited and almost asking questions like, Miriam, so what is the payment period if I get so much? I mean, we should make our way to the table, and before any other people come tomorrow, make sure that today you just close the deal, because you know how Sundays are, there's going to be a queue. So I would encourage you, if there's information that you need, as tiny as the group is, let's just make sure we get the information and, start building. You know that this is a year of, October is still a month of restoration. It may have to start from Zambia Home Loans. Okay, so without further ado, I will be asking Lieutenant Colonel Bungani Chirwa, who's the SASCO's expert, founder and CEO of TM Choice Meat Company Limited, and is also an area elder for Rochdale, Obama. So we will ask Lieutenant Colonel Chirwa, please, to come and do his presentation. Let's just maybe stand and just, encourage the man of God as he does his presentation. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll kindly ask you to take your seats, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope we had a nice lunch and we've rested. How many have been enjoying the conference, the workshop? Thank you. Okay. I want to speak to you on a teaching. It's not a preaching as per se, but just some information sharing. And the title of my sharing is The Power of Unity and Numbers. And then we can draw an inspiration from Psalms 133, verse 3, which says, how good and pleasant it is when brethren dwell together in unity. But before I speak, let me also just say thank you to the leadership of CPM and the Bread of Life in general for allowing me to stand before you great people. And I also want to just say thank you to my dear wife. She's my helper, Margaret Mulenga, my business partner, my everything. Thank you. And thank you for all of us who have come. You know, knowledge is power. And whether you're a professor or a doctor, learning doesn't stop. I can still learn a lot from someone. We've learned a lot from the presentations here, so you don't stop learning, even at a professor level. So let's quickly read before we begin to have this discussion. Let's just read Psalms 133. Those of us who are carrying our Bibles, 133. We'll read from verse 1. I'll go ahead of you in the interest of time. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. There is power in unity. You can do a lot if you're united, and you can do a lot if you're a good number of you. Okay, then the other portion of scripture that we'll be referring to in our discussion is Deuteronomy 8, verse 18. Then we'll refer also to Hebrews 11, verse 6, and a few others. But just as to begin with, let me begin with this saying by Shiv Khera. Shiv Khera says, winners don't do different things, but they do it differently. Winners don't do different things, but they do it what? Differently. And I want us to just it should be an interactive one, where you feel you can ask me. I've got 45 minutes. I'm sure I'll be done in no time, and then we can be talking. Winners don't do different things, but they do it differently. You've seen the Lebanese coming in. They're doing the same business that you do, but they do it differently, and they succeed. And whilst we still remain complaining and saying, Boma, Boma, Yanganepo. You see another man selling the same maize from the bush. Then he begins to sell it to FRI and gets a margin and grows and is able to build a house. The same thing that we do, but they do it differently. And I think the conference has been touching so much about changing our approach. We should change our approach. If something hasn't been working, let's see how we can do it differently so that ultimately we emerge as winners. Remember that saying, winners don't do different things, but they do it differently. They sell the same sweets on the streets, but they do it differently. There's an Indian, actually, he's a multi-millionaire. There's a story just here in Lumumba Road. This is a guy who's been selling these same things that we sell, biscuits. And you know, you're selling in a shop and he saw it wasn't working. He wasn't making it. So what did he do? He chatted with these same guys that we look down upon in the street and said, these are Caponians, they can't do anything. And one thing he questioned himself was that, if I give this person, this Caponia, biscuits worth 30 kwacha, and he runs away with that 30 kwacha, I give another one, those 30 kwachas, I'll lose. But there's another voice that came. If I give those 30 kwachas spread across town and they distribute for me and they sell for me, won't I win? Which voice will you believe? Will you believe the other voice which said, I'll lose the 30 kwachas? Or you believe the other voice which said, I'll win the 30 kwacha? And he did that approach after the other one wasn't working, where he was just sitting in a shop. He started giving these guys, after an interview and getting to know their character. Believe me, those guys, because they want to sell, they sell a 30 kwacha, they get a 5 kwacha. They sell, they come back to that Indian, bring a 25 kwacha, they keep a 5 kwacha. And the whole concept was well established, and this guy is a millionaire, owning a number of buildings just here in town. So it's about a mindset, and it's about your attitude. There's a picture that was shown yesterday on a lion and what's the other? Gazelle? Is gazelle. What do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a lion, or do you see yourself as a gazelle? You can choose to see yourself as a lion, which can go out in the field and conquer in the midst of these challenges that we have, or the risks that we have, and still manage. Or you can choose to be a gazelle, then you get swallowed by the lion. But I believe and trust that you and me are born again Christians that are supposed to wear a mind of faith. Can you imagine if Abraham decided to choose where it was looking good? Would he have managed? Would we be talking about Abraham the way we talk about him now? He chose to go to an unknown place. Why? Because of the spirit of faith. So even in the area of business, do you know that business is a risk? Business, you go in by faith. Yes, there are these risks. You lose the 30 kwacha, but what of if you win the 30 kwacha? So you need to go in by faith. And that's why Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. We are children of the Most High God. And God has told us, I have given you ability to make wealth. Deuteronomy 8:18. He has given us the ability. He has given us the ability. So it's up to you to use that ability to go out and conquer in the midst of the lion. To go out with confidence and conquer. And we are well able. The grace is sufficient for us to go out and conquer. My subject is the power of unity and numbers. You may be asking yourself, what is this guy talking about? I wanted to build our case. I've already told you, winners don't do different things, but they do things differently. Anyone who has borrowed here, for whatever reason, you've borrowed for a TV, you've borrowed to start a business, and I'm sure if you've borrowed from the commercial banks, you could be paying through difficult circumstances. The interest rate is so high. You borrowed to finance what? Remember, winners don't do different things, but they do things differently. I'll borrow 10,000. Jack will also borrow 10,000. But it depends on what that 10,000 is doing to me compared to John. If I'm going to borrow 10,000 to buy a TV so that I can show my neighbor, well and good, you know the end result. If I'm going to borrow 10,000 to do a business, you know the result. It will be different compared to the person who is borrowing to just buy a TV. So we need to do things differently. Borrow either to create an asset that will give you cash flows or money. Don't borrow for consumption purpose. Don't borrow to show someone that you have a car, a new car. Don't borrow in order to buy a bigger TV so that when the neighbor comes in and say, wow, this is a nice bigger TV. Borrow to build an asset, because an asset will be generating resources for you, and you'll be able now to buy a bigger TV, and your asset will continue running. Assets can either be a business or indeed flats, like we've heard from Zambian Homeland, where you set up flats that will be bringing you cash flows. We have so many dreams. And as we are seated here, I can tell you it doesn't matter how young you are. Everyone has got dreams. Sometimes others will dream to have a business, others will dream to go to school, others will dream to make an investment. All of us have got dreams. But the elephant in the room, remember, lack of finances. Lack of finances. But then, even God, he will ask you, I've given you the power to make wealth. Like in my case, maybe I may testify. I had this dream to set up this TM Choice Meat company, which is growing bigger and bigger. And we are getting higher and higher with my dear wife. But then the issue of finance comes in. And God says, what do you have in your hands? And that's what God usually does. He has given you the ability, but he will not take you there. He will ask you, what do you have in your hands? You have the skills, you have the TV, like he said earlier on, where you can leverage and do something. Even us as Bread of Life, or as CPM, Christian professionals and businessmen and women, what do we have in our hands? We can ask ourselves, collectively, what do we have in our hands? We have what? We have the numbers. We have what? We have what? We have the numbers. Can you imagine on the platform of CPM, more than 500 people? Can you imagine the entire Bread of Life? Thousands, tens of thousands that we have. We can leverage on that number, on those numbers, and come together. After all, when you read that scripture we read in Psalms 133, it says, how good and pleasant it is when people, God's people, live together in what? In unity. The latter verses there, they say, and there God commands a blessing, even life forevermore. So we can ask ourselves and say, yes, we have these numbers. We can leverage on these numbers and form something that will empower all of us. So that at the end of it all, those dreams that we have, those aspirations that we have, we can rely on this vehicle that will have established collectively and begin to actualize our dreams, our businesses, and so on and so forth. So, I want to highlight the opportunities that we have for low-cost financing. Then I want also to highlight the relevance of this low-cost business model that I'm proposing to this August House. Then I want to highlight the relevance of this business model to the Great Commission that is upon Bread of Life, Church International. Our vision is to bring tens of thousands into the kingdom of God, feed them with the bread of life, and then do what? Possess the land. So it's a three-pronged vision of Bread of Life. Bring tens of thousands, feed them with the bread of life, the word of God, and then possess the land. Now, bringing tens of thousands, it's a straightforward thing. You evangelize, you bring them. Then when you come here, men of God, the bishop, the general overseer, preaches to us, and then we get the word of God. We feed on the spiritual food. Possessing the land. What do we mean by possessing the land? Let's interpret that as Christian business professionals and businessmen and women. What do we mean by possessing the land? Possessing the land. Is it just getting a plot? Then we'll have possessed the land. But I believe and trust the vision is about power. Bread of Life should have power across Lusaka City, power across the 10 provinces, influence upon Lusaka province, influence everywhere, influence in the ministries, influence in businesses, influence everywhere, and legacy. Bread of Life should be able to have that legacy. And say, okay, this university, Blue University, it belongs to Bread of Life. This commercial bank, vibrant, with low interest rates better than the other commercial banks, belongs to Bread of Life. That's power, that's legacy, that's influence. That's influence in the marketplace. And this is where God wants us, all of us, to go. He has given us the ability to make wealthy. What are we doing about that ability that God has given you? It's one thing to be given an ability. They give you an AK-47. AK-47 has got so much power. But if you just keep it, you are not exploiting its potential. God has given us ability, which we are not exploiting as Christian professionals and businessmen and women. He has given us the capacity. What are we doing about that capacity? It's high time we change the approach. It's high time we rethought our strategy. We can look at what we have in our hands, the numbers. There is power in numbers. There is power in unity. We can come united and form what is called a circle. What is a circle? A circle simply stands for Savings and Credit Cooperative Society. A circle is a vibrant business model where you come together in numbers. And usually you look at the common bond. If it's at a workplace, your common bond will be the workplace. If it's a secondary school, you went to the same secondary school, you come together because you are coming from that common bond of secondary school. If it's a Bread of Life, like we are speaking, we go to the same church, Bread of Life Church International, and we are members of this church. And the Bible tells us in Psalms 133 how good and pleasant it is when brethren dwell together in unity. Unity in purpose. Unity towards the circle business purpose. There's an end to it. It's not just forming a circle. This will have an impact on the mission, the great mission of Bread of Life, of bringing tens of thousands, feeding them, and then possessing the land. Because we want to possess the land. We want to have power and influence. We want everyone to have a vibrant business that is ticking, and then they can support massively the work of God. They can support the vision of bringing tens of thousands. At the end of the day, we would like to obtain feedback from you. So we can start with a circle, which is a savings and credit cooperative. And this is a member-driven business entity where funds are mobilized from you, the members, small as they may be every month. But collectively, there will be huge resources. And then the members are empowered with relatively affordable loans and other financial services in order for them to establish their dreams, in order for them to establish their businesses. So church members would join and they would be financially included. Then the circle ultimately can diversify its portfolio, and then ultimately you can incorporate a bank, a commercial bank, or you can do a big investment that will run competitively with other banks. And when you do that, when you diversify your portfolio, you'll be empowering the members, because then your members will be able to enjoy more dividends, better loans, and so on. Media, you can go to the next slide. So the proposed name of the circle can be called Blessings, Savings, and Credit Cooperative Limited, abbreviated as B Circle Limited. And the justification of this project is that, yes, the members will be financially included and they will have literacy services. You and me will agree, these schools that we've gone to, there's no one who teach you about financial literacy. They'll just teach you on top, on the surface, busy bookkeeping and stuff. But then you have an opportunity to get financial knowledge, financial education, and then you'll be financially literate. Then the other benefit is that it will provide a relief on the mission funds. There's no need for me or you and me to start asking for funds from what is collected in the offering. Let's leave that money for the missions. We can have this model where we can all run to and we relieve the pressure on the missions funds. Then you, as a member, you can be empowered for business capital. You can start your business capital and actualize your idea. Instead of going to those commercial banks that are charging 40%, some of them are at 40% now, currently, you can come to your circle and get a loan that is affordable at 15, 16%, and so on. The benefit is that, look, when you get money from your commercial bank doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the shareholders who are sitting in Seychelles, Mauritius. When they make a profit out of your money, what do? They share the dividends alone. But when you form a circle, that money you are taking to a commercial bank, you say, oh, let me be taken to my circle. At the end of the year, the more you take, the more they are making money, the more they will declare dividends to you. The money still comes back to you. At the same time, you are benefiting in terms of loans, cheaper loans. Isn't it good? Isn't it better than a commercial bank? Because commercial bank, the more you take money, you are enriching someone who is in Seychelles. someone who is in Mauritius. But the more I take to B Circle Limited, the more I save, the more I collect loans from there and pay back promptly, I'm enriching myself because ultimately that money will still come back in my pocket. That's how a circle model works. And believe me, Kenyans actually laugh at us. When you interact with them in this fora, they'll tell you, Zambia, why have you remained behind? We learned from you. You remember we had that Kusa Zambia time? Those of you are as old as I am. Kusa Zambia, very vibrant. I don't know what happened. It's another topic. Very vibrant. And they're saying, we learned from you. Why have you remained behind? You go to Kenya. A bank doesn't go to Elder Steve and say, we are selling a loan or we are selling this service. So, no, I get this service from my circle. I have this card from my circle. I get a loan at a lower interest rate. I save with my circle in fixed deposit. And I've even built a house. And I've even done this from my circle. So you know what they do, the commercial banks? Instead of interfacing with the individual members because they can't penetrate, they go to the circle to lend their huge sums of money so that the circle can lend to its members. Do you know the implication? Because a circle is lending to its members at a lower interest rate, it means the commercial banks, if, for example, if the circle is lending to members at 15%, the commercial bank can only lend to a circle at, say, 10 to 12%. Isn't it good? It's better. We need to change our thinking. We need to change our approach. There's a lot of money sitting around here, a lot of people, some of them that are not here. Small contribution per month. You empower yourself through the circle. You will see the dividends that we'll be talking about in the next 5 years. If all of us can stand united in accordance with Scripture, if all of us cannot look at the lion, we cannot look at the risks. Yes, you need to take calculated risk, but you need to have a positive mind. Don't say, what if I lose money? The other question is, what if you make money when you invest? So there's a difference. If your mind is going to be, what if I lose money? What if the money is stolen? What if the money is not stolen? What if the money is gross? I had to take a risk myself with my wife. We got an equity release loan from Zambian Homeland, 2017-18. Yeah, we had built a house, flats, semi-detached, but the money was tied there. Semi-detached, so what? We have this dream. So we got an equity release loan, and believe me, the rest is history. Now we are even moving in town. Bigger space, head office, starting from a small Ntemba in Charleston. Right now, we are on a high ladder, going this way, growing. The idea is to take a risk, calculated risk. Don't look at, what if we lose this money? What if we lose this house we have pledged to Zambia Home Loans? Now the other question, what if you succeed? What happens? And where we are going, that loan will be done. We'll have the business. You see? So we need to take a step of faith. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. God is waiting upon us. He has already given us the ability. What step of faith are you taking? What mindset are you wearing? Let's wear a mindset of success. And that's what our Father in the Lord, the General Overseer, teaches us. I've grown under him from 1999. I've never heard him talking about negativity. He speaks positive. And some of us are what we are today because of what we've been hearing from him from the year 1999 to date. There's power in the grace that is upon bread of life. Let's look into ourselves and say, what do we have? What do we have? Media, I'm almost getting there. Media. You can proceed. So the circle can be set up with committees. And when they set up committees, these committees are the ones that will be driven by the bylaws that we can set for ourselves. And then the patron, we can decide. It's member driven. So we can decide as members to make our presiding bishop to be the patron, who now can appoint the supervisory committee. The supervisory committee now is to look into your interests so that your money is safe and secure. Go ahead. Another slide. So the organization and operations of this circle, B Circle Limited, can be guided by the bylaws. And again, those bylaws will be driven and drawn by ourselves. So The general organogram proposed is as follows, where you can have the general circle members. You can see the circle members, all of us who are seated here. We are at the apex. We are the highest authority because we are the owners of those funds. So we are the highest authority. Then we have the Supervisory Committee, which can be a 3-member committee that speaks on behalf of those members, safeguards the interest of those circle members. Then you have the Board of Directors. Now the Board of Directors, this is where now you have the board chairman, the board vice chairperson, the credit, and so on, those 4 committees that are under. You can also have an investment subcommittee. So an investment subcommittee is the one now who can be going out to make investments on your behalf. They don't just make a decision, they still have to come to the members at a general meeting. So you can invest in a hotel, you can invest in a commercial bank, you can invest in lucrative farming. Farming is lucrative. Remember that saying, winners don't do different things, but they do things differently. I'm a farmer by profession, I'm an agricultural economist. I don't grow maize. I don't grow maize. I add value to meat. I make sausages, Polonies, Hungarians, doing different things. I don't grow maize, I can grow seed maize. Seed maize, they pay $700 per ton. You get a lucrative contract and you make your money. So let's do things differently. So in the area of business, in the area of our visions, let's do things differently. We can set up this circle and to empower all of us and to actualize our dreams. Let's go, media. So the performance we can look at, we can ultimately register the circle, we can recruit the members, then we can set up the ICT platforms. These ICT platforms is to help us to account for the monies, so that any contributions that come, you're able to track. And even you as a member, you can just go on your phone and check how much balances you have. It's possible. I can currently sit as board chairman for some secondary school. We formed a circle. That's what we have. We have a software in place. I just go on my phone and I'm able to check my balances. I'm able to check my savings. I'm able to apply for a loan. I'm able to apply for a withdrawal in the comfort of my room. It can be done for Bread of Life. And believe in you, Bread of Life, if we look that direction, it can be the bigger and best performing circle in the country. Because we have the numbers. God is saying, what you have in your hands, we have the numbers. Let these numbers then be united, the power of numbers and the unity. Let's go, media. Let's go. So you can have project activities. So to start with, you can even have a circle manager, you can have a circle accountant, and a savings and loans officer just in the beginning because you're still small. And then you can do project activities. You can consult I think this has already been done, the Higher Church Authority. Then you can also sensitize the general membership so that that number that we have, we can capitalize on it. Go, media. Next. You can develop the bylaws. You can have an interim board of directors. This will be the steering committee to ensure that it's set up and the bylaws are done. Then you can set up a circle head office, small beginning. Then you equip it with ICT, equip it with the required furniture and other support facilities. Next. What is the relevance of this vision of forming B Circle Limited or Blessings, Savings and Credit Cooperative Limited? The relevance is that the members, one, they will be financially and economically empowered. Our financial and economic needs will be physically facilitated by the circle. Instead of running to the mission funds, instead of this often running, they can run to this and they can set up. Then the members can be empowered financially, and then when you are empowered, it will be very easy to contribute towards the work of God. It will be very easy to contribute in bringing tens of thousands in the kingdom, and then we can actualize our vision of bringing tens of thousands, feeding them with the bread of life, and possessing the land. Now, can you imagine we have vibrant businesses scattered across Lusaka, scattered across the nation, and they belong to a member of Bread of Life? It means I don't need to go out. If I want this thing, I just go to Elder Steve and I'll be able to get it. If I want this thing, furniture, I go to a member of Bread of Life who has been empowered by the circle itself. So the money remains within the Bread of Life fellowship. And when we do that, even the outside members will see the impact that we are creating, and it will be very easy to bring tens of thousands in the kingdom. The main church then will concentrate on feeding the flock with the bread of life, leaving the aspect of the economic affairs to the circle. Next, leaving the affairs of the economic affairs or economic table for its members to the circle as referred to by the diaconate. Then bread of life members will be able to create employment. Remember I talked about possessing the land? What is this possessing the land? It's about impact, it's about power, it's about influence, it's about leaving a legacy. Can you imagine you began an employer, you're employing 20 youths? The new Dawn government is talking about the creation of employment for the youths. Are you looking at yourself as an employee, or are you looking at yourself as creating that job? Let's have a mind to create that job. And we are well able, because God has given us that power and ability to make wealth. God has given us the grace. If we can step out by faith and create that dream, create that job, God's grace is sufficient, and we'll be able to create these jobs as members of Bread of Life. Then members of Bread of Life will be able to contribute towards the tax revenue for national development. Will be relevant to our nation. Do we love Zambia? Yes, we do, and that's why we are here. We were born here. This is our country. Then the circle versus other business units. You can set up, you can invest in other strategic business units or SBUs, such as investment in bonds, treasury bills, commercial farms. Commercial farms, I'm not talking about growing maize. You take to growing seed maize. Huge tracts of land. And you do the seed high valued. You grow soybeans, you grow wheat, high valued crops. So that when you sell, even the bank account for that company shakes. You can even see the impact. This is what we can do as a circle. Because we have the power in numbers, we can mobilize these resources and set up these commercial farms. We can set up a shopping mall. Can you imagine blessing shopping mall? Then, since it's our shopping mall, we even mount a crusade there and evangelize. Don't you think it would be easier for people to listen? They are seeing what we have done, the impact, the power, the possessing the land that we talk about. It's possible. It's possible. Let's support our GO. Let's support the vision of Bread of Life. It's very possible. As you support it, as you come along, you'll see it happening in your life. Amen. We can set up these office parks. We can set up an office park. We can buy a property. It comes from that power in numbers and unity. We can invest in viable companies like Zambia Sugar. We can invest there. Coca-Cola, they're inviting shareholders. We can buy shares in such lucrative companies. There's a circle I know, which is the best performing circle in Zambia. All their members are empowered. They've got loans, they've built another unit, they are running farms from the circle. I won't mention. There's a circle in Zambia, they started under a tree, just 4 people. But today, they are big, they have their own offices, and they are investing in viable companies, buying shares in Zambia Sugar, these lucrative companies. They started from that number that we are talking about. Ultimately, the circle, through its investment subcommittee, can set up a commercial bank. Because you will have picked lessons from the circle model. You have learned how to run that software. You have learned how to give loans. Remember, you know each other. And then now you can open up and go to the public. Because remember, a commercial bank, you open up to the public. And when you open up to the public, Bank of Zambia will get interest. They will get interested. Because now you are open to the public. They will require you to follow the statutory reserve ratio rule. They will require you to file in. They will require you to secure those deposits and so on. So because now you'll be taking deposits from the general public, Bank of Zambia will have to regulate you. But remember, we are coming from a circle. We'll have picked all these lessons. We'll have built the financial skills. We'll have built on how to do it. So we can set up a commercial bank and possess the land. Because we need to possess the land. So that even as you speak, no politician can mark you around. No politician can come. Our father in the Lord to our father in the Lord. He cannot be tossed by a Nigerian president. He can't, this project, it belongs to God. The government cannot manage. they keep that money and give it to the poor. It can't be tossed around because he has power. They've created these things that we are talking about. They have banks. They have these facilities that belong to the church. They have possessed the land. And it starts with you and me agreeing with that vision, running with that vision, running with what CPM is proposing, so that we can be part and parcel of this movement and achieve the vision of the third leg of possessing the land. Next, media. So the title of our project can be Establishment of Blessing Savings and Credit Cooperative, abbreviated as ESTAB B-Circle Project. Then the target, we can go to, so basically the target and geographical focus is looking at the phases. We have a number of phases. Next slide. The circle vision, we can have a state-of-art commercial bank with modern ICT and profitable banking services delivery systems. The circle mission, to establish funds from church members and provide access to loans and financial services. Go ahead. Next slide. To members at better terms. And then those are our key performance indicators, or KPI. You can go next slide. Then inputs are those, space, office space for those three proposed staff. Then interim board of directors, financial resources which can be pulled from me, yourself, and the other person who is sitting there because we have the numbers. Then you can attach next slide. And then you can have the computer, the software, and then the scale, project scale and outreach, then you can scale it up. So you can start with Lusaka and then scale it up to other branches, and then later on scale it up abroad. Go ahead. Implementation organization is Bread of Life Church International through CPM. CPM through the duly elected board of directors. And then there's also a management team that can be put in place at commencement of operations. Go ahead. And then we need to also to align, because circles, and that's why you've heard, like Mwanawasa, President Mwanawasa had even set up a ministry of cooperatives. This is one of the agendas he was driving. He was driving the cooperative movement. One of them was the circle. Sustainability plan. So you can put in place a circle-wide risk management framework so that people don't lose their money. You can have general meetings so that people don't lose money. You can have those systems I've talked about, the ICT, so that people don't lose their money. Sustainability plan, exchange of information between the board and management should be done on a monthly basis or regularly. Then board meetings can be held quarterly so that you report to the members. Remember that structure I gave you, the organogram? Members at the apex, they are the bosses, they are the owners. So you need to report to them time and again. Next, and then you can have a stewardship and sustainability guide, which can be explained, distributed. How do you train the next generation of leaders? So that can be covered there. You can also have an insurance cover on those loans. Remember, you want to take care of the risk that you are giving, on the loans that you are giving out. So you can cover with an insurance on the disbursed loans. Then you can put in place leadership succession plan. You can put in place rigorous audit and inspections. Remember the Supervisory Committee? The Supervisory Committee is not part of the board. The Supervisory Committee is appointed separate from the board. Why? To take the interest of the members at heart, so that they supervise the board of directors and management if they are really doing things in accordance to the wishes and wills of the people, because it's people's money. Okay. So you can have rigorous audit and inspections, and supervisory committee can be tasked. Then you can also appoint an independent auditor who can come and audit the books at some intervals. Next. So in conclusion, B-Circle Limited is poised to be the leading circle in the country in the near future if you and me subscribe to it. If you and me believe in it, because there's power in unity and there's power in numbers. Rigorous financial internal controls and clear transaction records should be in place. Remember that software I talked about? That software, the idea is to post the transactions, and then the member can check and say, oh, yes, I deposited 5,000, now I have 10,000. They are able to check without calling you. With God on our side, victory is our portion through perseverance. With God on our side, victory is our portion in this year of the God factor. Success is our portion. After all is said and done, we will just give God all the glory. Because remember, it is Him who gives us the ability to make wealth. Deuteronomy 8, verse 18. It is Him who gives us the ability to make wealth, and He has given us that ability. Let's use that ability. Let's step out and succeed in the marketplace. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.
What a powerful presentation. How many attest to that? So this is a project we've been working on in the background. And my director of research, that's work we are doing. It's in progress. And I want to believe there's a lot we can get done. Fantastic work has already been done. I think we've done quite some good amount of homework. Keno, I present the director research. Let's finalize that. We should be good to get this going. How many want that actualized? You see, sometimes a prophet has no honor in their home. My brother here has done quite a lot of this work in Kenya and all, and around in other places, here in Zambia, and things are happening there. But he has repeatedly been arguing that once we set up a circle under Bread of Life, because where we've done this, there are no numbers equal to the numbers we sit with. And so the reason as CPM leadership we gave him to go ahead and do this work, this is consultancy work that people will pay through the nose to do. But here it is, we've gotten this done. So we are almost there. All we need is a buy-in from all of you. A practical proposal for us to possess the land. This can help us to actualize that dream of the blessing city. So let's get involved and let's get doing this. I told you earlier, we may be few in numbers as we sit here, but there is great stuff that the Lord is lifting us to do for the kingdom. Amen. So without much of time lost, I'll ask Miriam to come back quickly and do her last bit of the presentation. Then we have Brother Bona. And immediately Bona is done, we'll ask Doc to come. Then she'll take us into an interactive session where we will be able at that point to say, Brother Bona, you said this. And Keno, you said this. Elder Male, you had said this earlier. Sister Miriam, you said this. This place is so loaded. And I just want to believe there's something great going on right now. So please, let's welcome Sister Miriam back.
I have been blessed. I think I'm already a member of SACCO. You've already recruited me, Keno Chira, so that was a powerful presentation. Okay, so I think what we'll do, maybe just a quick recap of what we spoke about earlier, of the products we offer, and a few other products that I maybe probably go a bit more in detail. So I mentioned we do offer construction loan. Equity release is one other product we offer. We also offer home improvement. So equity release is where you have a house already and you want to get equity from it. I'll touch into that later. We also offer home improvement loans. If you've got a house already, you want to improve it, we can give you financing for that. If you want to buy land, and we can give you financing for that. But my second thought of interaction with you would be more on creating a second source of income. We all work, you know, and sometimes we get comfortable with our jobs, with that salary. But we need to prepare for retirement. if you, for instance, you got fired today, what happens to you tomorrow, you know? If you decide to retire in the next couple of years, what have you, set aside to get you going, to sustain you, for the next years to come? So how do you create a second source of income using the property that you already have? Like the Colonel had earlier indicated as an example, taking calculated risk. You have a house. And we all know we have sentimental attachments to these properties, eh? You've built that house. You can't mortgage it. You're thinking, wow, if I mortgage it, in case I default, this insurance company will come and grab, that property from me. But what we do is we actually use the same property to get Kaloba. Somebody can agree with me? Yes? We get Kaloba using the same property, and they charge you 30%, sometimes more. And, you're actually pledging 100%. The risk there is 100% of probably you losing that property. But at Zambian Home Loans, we will charge you only 2%, less than 2%, on interest. So I'll get to that later, but maybe what we could do is, how do you get value from the property that you own? Maybe I would probably get to define what equity is. So equity is a portion of an asset that you own. And equity release is just the value that you're trying to get from that house that you own, but so you could get probably 5% or 10% or 20%. So what we do is we value that property. Sometimes it may be valued at 4 million, right? And you're thinking, fine, I can't pledge this house. The value is just too high. The risk is just too high of me losing that property. But you could actually use only 20% of that value, and then get financing for that, invest in another business. Right now, everybody is talking about agriculture. Buy a farm, set up something at the farm. As you're working, you're already building up something to prepare you for retirement. And I think that's very key for all of us. We all get very comfortable with those jobs and that salary, But how then can you prepare for retirement? So use that house that you already own, get cash from it. The only thing that we'll come to do is we will value the house and we'll give you 50% of the market value. Or if the value is high, maybe it's outside an example for you, if it's valued at 4 million or 2 million, you're only getting 200 kwacha as a loan, But if you really pledge that house to Kaloba, you risk losing the whole property. You know what I mean? You're actually pledging the whole house. So in case anything happens, they'll come and grab that property. So let's address the fears. I think this is what we all are scared of. If I got a loan, they will come and repossess that house. So what we do at Zambian Home Loans, I think I did mention earlier in the earlier presentation that our loans are insured. They're insured under credit life, so it covers you. In case anything happens to you, insurance will come and pay off the loan, the balance outstanding at a time of death, and we hand over the property back to your family, And what we also do is our loans are insured under fire. So in case the house caught fire, the insurance pays off the loan. So you don't have to be scared about that. But the other thing that I know we all get scared of is a high interest rate. I think the Kenor had mentioned that earlier. And I'm happy that there's this so-called, proposal that we're all looking at and we're excited about. So we are scared. I can't borrow because of the high interest rates that most of these financial institutions offer. But I would give you some good news, and that's why we're here. We'd want to partner with you. At Zambian Home Loans, our interest rates are very low. We are the lowest on the market. If it's time for you to get a mortgage, this is the best time for you to get a mortgage. Our loans are 21.25, and I did mention it, it's a fixed rate. So if you're paying 2,000, for instance, in the next couple of months, things change on the market, you see an upward adjustments, there's high, treasury bills go up, policy rates go up, your repayment remain fixed. You'll be paying 3,000 until the loan expires, until you finish paying off a loan. So I think that's a plus, really, And I did mention also that, look, our loans, the shorter tenor that we have is 5 years. So we can give you up to whatever tenor that you're comfortable with. But I think come through at the table, we'll give you all these details. We'll get into all these details as you come. But our key goal today is to just encourage you that, look, you have that house. It has cash in it. You don't have to hold on to it. We all have sentimental attachments to these, properties. I would want to still cite an example of a colonel, use that house, and now he's developed a bigger business from just that house. So you can do more to that, get that house and, you get a mortgage from it and get financing and create a second source of income. If anything happens to you, you have somewhere to start from. Now, before we talk about you owning a house, we need to start from somewhere. You need to buy the land. Very key, you need to buy the land. We finance land purchase as well, up to 75%. We all know we are looking at buying land. Everybody's buying land. It's either traditional land, you're buying from a property developer, you're either buying from a friend or colleague. Everybody's, looking at buying because that's what's happening now. Sometimes you don't have finances for that. You have an offer to buy this, an opportunity to buy this land, and you don't have finances to do that. And so we are here to also encourage you to look, this is another product we offer. If you're looking at buying land, we provide 75% of the sale price of that land. So you only put down 25%. I think that's a good one, So that's one other thing that we also pride in. But why then should you invest in land, That land, when you build a house, you can either build a house to live in, stop paying rent. Build a house, put it on rent. Rental income can actually help you service a loan. I will cite an example for you. If you're actually building a house and you're renting, you're paying $4,000, and the money that you're pushing towards your project is another extra $4,000 from your salary, right? You add that, that's about $8,000 that you're actually spending in a month, right? Now, because you're only pushing $4,000 towards a project, the progress is very slow. It will take you years to finish, right? But when you add that $8,000 and use that as a repayment to get a loan from Zambian Homeland, within 3 months, your house will be done. You will stop paying rent, move in your own house, and service a mortgage using that same $8,000, but it's in your house, and that's what we would want to empower most Bread of Life members, the professionals, that have attended this, conference. And that's a good news for you. So please, if you're looking at buying that land, do it now. Why then should you also invest in land? It's an inheritance that you can pass on to future generations. Others are actually building on farms that were bought by their great-grandfathers. You see what I mean? Sometimes you may have opportunities to buy land, but you tend to think, okay, the area where it's being sold, it's too far. Right? I may not really have use for it then. But buy the land. If it's that opportunity for you to buy the land, even if you don't have use for it, because this is, an inheritance that you may pass on. You may not have use for it yourself, but the children will have use for it, or your great-grandchildren will have use for it, And so this is one thing that we want to encourage you as a financier, if you have opportunities to, have an opportunity to buy that land, approach us. We're happy to finance, If you're looking at getting equity from that house that you already own, please approach us. We'll be happy to finance. And so, in a nutshell, that is what we thought could also encourage you on. And I know the other fear that you would have is a longer tenor, When you get a mortgage, you're thinking most mortgages are long tenors, right? 20 years, 10 years, And you're thinking, I will be servicing this loan for such a long time. But when you come to Zambian Home Loans, we will give you whatever you prefer. You would want a 1-year loan, we'll give you a loan for a year. We would want a 2-year loan, we'll give you a loan for 2 years. And the interest that will be calculated only for that period that you're servicing the loan. So those are details that we can run you through as you approach us by the desk or as we interact further. But over and above that, unlock that cash from that house you own. Invest in another second source of income. Don't be comfortable with your job. Anything happens, anytime. There's COVID now. We all get affected. Companies are closing down. Companies are kind of cutting down on human resource because of limited revenue to pay. But then when you have created that second source of income, you are covered. For your tomorrow, you are covered. In case anything happens to you, you know that there's a second source of income that will help you sustain you for the next years to come. So thank you so much for your time. I am really trying to stick to time, but please, when you want to ask questions, you can still feel free to ask questions at our desk. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Deserve another round of applause. I almost came here when Colonel was just going through the circle and just wanted to be going around. I said, I'm number one on the circle. Before anyone registers, I should be the first one. That was a powerful, powerful, powerful presentation. I like what the chair said. He said, don't worry about who's here. You people are special, and God wants to start with you. The knowledge that I've been able to just listen into. I was listening. I wasn't here yesterday, but I was watching the video on Mr. Twambo, who was sharing yesterday. He talked about the power of knowledge and ignorance, and just the few minutes that I've been able to sit and listen from what the Colonel was sharing and from what Miriam has shared has totally transformed my life. I'm sure the next conference when I'll be sharing, I will be here to now share my testimonies and said, oh, the first one was first what Mr. Twambo shared, then what Colonel shared, then what Miriam shared. I didn't know that you can actually, there was an equity loan. I hear about Zambia home loans at times on radio, and it's just like, you are driving and they're saying, oh my God, they just want money. But it's something that can actually take you to your next level of financial freedom. Everybody was talking about the elephant in the house. Was that the word? It's about money, and I love money. And we have been, literally we have been liberated. If you are here, you are a student, you have been given so much machinery with you, and you have already heard of SACCO. Just see where you can sit. Talk to the chair and say, yeah, me, I'm a student, but I'm a member of SACCO. So how much can I contribute? Because that commercial bank that is coming, I want to be a part of it and say, oh, I'm actually the owner of, this bank. So much power. I would go on and on bragging about what has happened today. But without further ado, I will call upon Mr. Bonnie Kashinga, is it? Yes. Mr. Bonnie Kashinga. I will just give you a brief introductory on what he brings to the house. I'm excited because so far it has been, a blast. So he's CEO of Zika, Director and Shareholder of Landsworth Investment Limited, Group Chairman of Landsworth Capital. So please, let's just a round of applause as we welcome Mr. Bona Kashinga. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. In church, it's very unusual to say good afternoon. So let me say greetings, brethren, in the precious name of the Lord Jesus Christ. I want to thank the leadership for this opportunity for me to be able to share and to be able to stand on this pulpit. I don't take it lightly. And so I want to say thank you to Dad, Bishop Imakando, also to Elder Mwale, Chair of the Christian Professional Ministries, which has given me this opportunity to share with you. It's always interesting to be able to see the remnant of those that are positioning themselves and going out of their way to ensure that they can be able to obtain relevant information, make networking, with persons of like-minded. So consider yourselves to be utterly blessed. All the blessings of the house are very much present, and so we will, proceed with the business, as it were. I want to just acknowledge my wife. She's in the audience, Mrs. K, behind there. She is the chief executive of everything I do. I'm the director in that sense, but success, failures are mine, successes are hers. So I will talk to you, media, if you can, beam the first presentation. I'll talk to you about positioning yourself to take advantage of frontier opportunities. Before I go further, I know that mom is also in the house. When your mothers are in the house, Doc, you have to be able to acknowledge them. They know you from the time that you were in, nappies. And so they can certainly talk about, the fact that you are a son, and hopefully you are not, bluffing your way through the presentation. I want to talk to you very practically about positioning yourself to take advantage of frontier opportunities. There are many frontier opportunities. Frontier is essentially in reference to a new beginning, an area of new beginning where you don't have too many, market players. And so you can think of anything. The most easiest way to think about frontier markets is perhaps to think about mining. We may know the story of, for example, diamond mining in South Africa. When at Kimberley, they discovered one of the richest, rock of diamond, which was stretching for kilometers on end. That was a frontier market in its time. People came from across the world looking for the Kimberley diamonds. People literally came with just, their bare clothes with the hope of one day hitting it big in this land of diamonds. So I'm talking to you about, positioning yourself to take advantage of frontier opportunities. There are many. I'll go through a few of them and perhaps share some case studies that I think are relevant and hopefully will open our eyes as Christians. If you could move to the next slide. That's a quick roadmap about my presentation to yourselves today, mapping the multi-million-dollar frontier locations. These I like to call them as cash cow locations. And I'll share 4 case studies if I can, and I need to keep a watch on my time. I need to keep on my time. And then the other one is, short-circuiting the business case to invest. Many of us sometimes, want to go through the motions of, should I invest? Have I analyzed everything? And so on. In frontier markets, sometimes taking long might cost you the opportunity of getting in fast on that opportunity. You can imagine in Kimberley, the one who moved very quick to the riverbeds found the diamonds when they were still lying in the waterbeds. And he obviously went and applied for the mineral rights, covering a huge landmass. And that was it. Everyone else needed to be able to go further on. So in frontier markets, you need to be able to have a few quick ways in which you can get to the front of the queue. So getting to evaluate the size of the opportunity, mapping your share of the cash cow opportunity. We always hear of the national cake. I have a saying that the national cake, once baked, is never delivered to those who are spectators. Everyone eats it very quietly, and you can be waiting for the national cake. Nobody would deliver the national cake to you. Granted, and it might even be biblical why that is the case. You need to be able to position yourself first by being able to put your foot forward and also acting in faith to be able to invest your time and your knowledge to be able to actually find out what this national cake is and how you can partake of it. Positioning big but starting small. Those will be, I think, the key highlights of what I want to be able to share. If you could move it to the next slide. Thank you very much. That is a map of Zambia. Zambia, in many respects, is like the promised land. And I can tell you that. It is like the promised land that is flowing with milk and honey. Most of us are very local in our knowledge about Zambia, and sometimes we miss out on the opportunities. Lusaka is a brilliant, lovely place. So is the Copper Belt. I have analyzed them in my property, business and spaces fantastically. Every one of us can be able to build, apartments, flats, start a business on the corner, and so on. But in many respects, Lusaka, in few areas, will still present you with frontier opportunities. Lusaka is a well-developed and well-known market. You need to be able to find something more different in order for you to be able to actually get that extra opportunity. And so, I want to talk to you about places that perhaps you don't pay attention to, which are happening, and perhaps foreigners and those who are actually seeing them are moving into. These are areas that I have personally, invested in with my wife, with colleagues. So, let's talk about, the first block or so that I want to be able to share with you. I'll talk about Kazungula and Livingstone as a frontier zone. If you could move the slide. That is the border of 4 nations. The only place in the world where 4 nations share a border. That is a very unique place in every respect. On that particular border, two countries, Botswana and Zambia, have built a bridge, which you will see on the next slide. That bridge is significant to commerce and trade, not only for the two countries, but literally for the entire continent of Africa. And, there is the bridge. It has a very, interesting cave. That cave is specifically meant to be able to avoid the waters of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, during the time that President Kama was, president of Botswana, had some unreconcilable issues. He was always pushing very hard on the neighbor, indicating that they needed to be able to get to the democratic side of things. And at that time, I think when this bridge was being, essentially put together, we also had late President Mwanawasa. You probably know the story of President Mwanawasa and how he made a comment about the Titanic, which was our southern border. Colleagues. So the three nations didn't see eye to eye. When the bridge was being put together, Zimbabwe, I think, opted out on protest more than anything else, not because the opportunity was not there. The case as is now is very much, different. So the bridge caved out of the Zimbabwean waters into Botswana and Zambia, and there you have it. That bridge is a bridge that essentially connects Southern Africa to the northern part. It also connects important cargo that is coming out of the DRC. And I'll tell you a story about the DRC because of the potential that it has. And so when you are thinking of a frontier market, you have to be able to ask yourself, four nations that are connected at a geographical place, which perhaps in each direction is not more than 10 kilometers. The opportunities there are immense. And I can tell you that the story for Kazungula is being written as we sit. Land has not only been taken, the new portions that are being created by the district are being created very much in the bushland, almost 10 kilometers away from any visible road. But Kazungula is a hotcake, without a doubt. You want to ask yourself, if you are in trading, whether this is one of the places that you need to be able to think about being in. You've got Botswana. Botswana has got certain dependencies on Zambia, just as we have dependencies on Botswana. Quite a bit of our salt comes from Botswana. I know friends who import salt from Botswana, and they come and repackage it here and they sell. We as well, send quite a bit of, inputs into Botswana, including, for example, timber related, products into Botswana. Zambia and Botswana have got a healthy exchange of daily, requirements. Botswana has got a lot of cattle, and so if you are, into that space, you actually want to be able to locate yourself around that area, because you can be able actually to source very good, a product in relation to cattle. I know of one or two people that specifically deal in, collecting semen for good breed of cattle, which they bring over into Zambia, which they actually sell to commercial farmers. They essentially crossbreed and create, very high grade, cattle. That is just half the story of that particular location. For those who are into, freight, clearing, and so on, there is no better border to be at to be able to clear what is going through the southern border than that one. I can tell you that about 80% of what used to go through the Victoria Bridge in Livingstone has completely dried up and deviated into the Kazungula Bridge. Yes, the tolls at Kazungula Bridge are many times more than what you have on the other side. But there is a huge opportunity, which is essentially one, you've got a passage into a country that is fairly easy to do business with, as a matter of fact, and so on. The other issues, of course, is for those who are in freight and clearing, the amount of traffic that is going through Kazungula and will continue to go through Kazungula is only going to get more and more. as we interconnect, the rest of Southern Africa. And so you actually want to strategically be in there, whether that is for, cargo clearing, whether that is even for things like, lodges and so on. Kazungula has got beautiful Zambezi River. With the part of the Zambezi that is not past the Victoria Falls, essentially means you can be able to have, boats easily going over the waters. The tragedy about our riverfronts, including Kazungula, is that most of the waterfront of the Zambezi is essentially taken. It's taken by people of European descent, literally perhaps from as far off as Western Province, all the way to Victoria Falls. There will be a few pockets of Zambians that are owning it. This is a space that we essentially need to be able to move into. If you have listened to, the New Dawn government, there is quite a lot of emphasis on empowering Zambians. And I would say that, having talked to the Minister of Tourism, this is something that is on the agenda. So position yourself for a location like Kazungula. Yes, be in Lusaka. It is close, it's visible, but you can be granted of one thing. When you are looking at a frontier market, do what I call the litmus test. Are the big elephants in the room? I heard the word elephant in the room. Now I'm actually talking about the big elephants being in the frontier space. If the big elephants are in the frontier space, the small impalas will be able to graze without a problem. And so you actually have to develop a knack in being able to trace the big elephants. Are they already in this particular space? I can tell you that, there are many nations that want their nationals to be in this space. I know that the Americans have got a deliberate policy to get into that space. And there are many others that are looking to be able to take a chunk of Kazungula. If you can move on. That is another interesting place, the Patoka Hydropower Dam. The Patoka Hydropower Dam is in a location that probably most of you have not been to. It is after the Zambezi has dropped at the Victoria Falls, and downstream what you find is a narrow Zambezi. It's essentially rapids and gorges. This is going to be, if not our biggest hydropower facility, which will be generating more than 1,200 megawatts of electricity. Alongside this project, which is going to be, I think, in the tune of about $2 billion, will be pretty much a brand new town that is going to be developed. Now, there is one thing in economics which we always track. $2 billion falling in any location is going to create a significant ripple effect. Significant. Mark my word. If $2 billion was invested in Lusaka here, we would feel it. Literally, in terms of what it is doing to supply and demand of goods and services. If certain goods and services are actually not in adequate supply, they will shoot up in their prices. Because those who have it will obviously mark the prices up. Kazungula Patoka Hydropower Dam is going to be a game changer for the location that it is in. It is roughly about 30 kilometers from Livingstone on the Zambezi, as you go through the gorges. The land right now is probably available at relatively low prices. And there is also traditional land. And so for those who, for example, hail from this location, what an opportunity. The village that you forsook and suddenly never visited is becoming the land of milk and honey. This will be a location where everything is in short supply. And I know that from experience. When you have $2 billion arriving in the middle of the bush, there are no hotels, there are no proper houses, there are no transport operators, sometimes there are no hospitals, there's literally nothing. And so the first movers who move into a location like this one, literally can be able to command their price. And those are the opportunities that any business person looks for, at least for me and my wife. We look for an opportunity where for a foreseeable period of time, we shall enjoy the monopoly of the market. We shall probably have space to continue growing, having market share in that location before competition enters, before other entrants come in. And there will always be other entrants who will come in. That is the period within which you reinvest, you grow to size. Even when they arrive, they are arriving at a point when your size is significant enough to not be too worried. Frontier opportunity.